As Yanyun's movements grow more erratic, Suchan attempting to climb her are effortlessly flung away by surges of energy radiating from her body. Suchan remarks in disbelief about the resilience of Yanyun's clothing, wondering how it manages to expand with her growing form. As Suchan descends, dark energy coils around him. His target is clear: he must reach Yanyun and bring her back to consciousness before she loses herself completely. The monster, still grinning with madness, declares that no one can stop him now. He is believing himself invincible as he stands beneath Yanyun's towering form. However, before he can act further, dark energy wraps around his throat. His eyes widen in shock as the suffocating force tightens. Suchan, cloaked in a swirling aura of dark energy, lands on the battlefield with commanding presence. The monstrous warrior, still struggling against the grip around his neck, glares at Suchan and demands to know his intentions. As the battle rages on, dark energy surges through the battlefield, sending enemy forces flying in all directions. The once confident climbers desperately cling to Yanyun's massive form, but the relentless force of the attack hurls them away one by one. From a distance, a hooded woman steps into view, gripping a staff adorned with skulls. Further ahead, the group of monster confronts the woman with resentment in their eyes. They declare that they were once human, accusing her of being the one responsible for their current inhuman forms. One monster with glowing red eyes lunges forward, his twisted grin revealing sharp teeth. He declares his intent to make his opponent pay. Meanwhile, she grips their staff tightly. She insults their enemies. Without hesitation, she lash out, swinging their skull-adorned staff with deadly precision. The impact striking one of the monster in the mouth, causing him to reel back in pain. The woman stands her ground. The monster before her lets out a wild laugh, relishing the fight. The woman stepping back as she taunts her opponent, telling them to consider themselves lucky. She deliberately lets herself fall backward off the cliff's edge, disappearing into the abyss below. As she descends, she mockingly calls it her parting gift to them. Meanwhile, the skulls adorning it begin to writhe as dark energy pulses through them, their twisted mouths stretching open. From the staff, grotesque tendrils of dark energy slither forth, extending rapidly across the battlefield. Dark writhing tendrils explode from the monster, rapidly ensnaring everything in their path. One of the monster finds himself trapped, his body constricted as he struggles desperately to free himself. The monster lets out a guttural roar, its gaping maw filled with countless fanged mouths. It surges forward with terrifying speed, its glowing red eyes locked onto Yanyun. Elsewhere, an arrogant warrior smirks, clinging onto Yanyun's towering form. He laughs, boasting that he was the first to reach his goal, claiming superiority over the others. Suddenly, Yanyun's foot crashes down, sending countless enemies flying into the air. Screams of shock and terror echo as bodies are hurled away like mere insects. The monsters cling desperately to Yanyun's colossal form, trying to maintain their grip. One of them shouts a warning the giant woman is about to strike. With an earth-shattering impact, Yanyun slams her foot down, crushing everything beneath her with devastating force. Blood and energy burst outward as her attack obliterates the monstrous threat in her path. She rises with an eerie, almost triumphant expression, her glowing red eyes radiating an unsettling aura. Meanwhile, the few remaining warriors continue their futile attempt to climb her massive frame, their bodies barely hanging on. A monstrous warrior smirks, believing himself lucky to have dodged the previous attack. Suddenly, Suchan descends at incredible speed, his body shrouded in dark energy. Purple streaks of power crackle around him as he launches a devastating attack. The monster barely has time to react before Suchan's attack lands. The strike cuts cleanly through him, blood bursting into the air as his body is torn apart mid-fall. Suchan propels himself even higher, soaring toward the sky with unstoppable force. Yanyun stands motionless, her massive form towering over the ruined battlefield. Above her, Suchan descends gracefully. From a distance, the woman and the commander take in the aftermath. Relief washes over them as they realize the monstrous enemies have been defeated. She looks up at Suchan, she murmurs his name, worry creeping into her voice. Suchan, whose glowing red eyes remain locked onto Yanyun. Hovering in front of Yanyun's face, Suchan stares into her massive, lifeless red eyes. Yanyun towers over the city. She glares down at Suchan. Suchan, floating mid-air, realizes the immense danger before him. As Yanyun's hands stretch out toward him, the entire cityscape appears minuscule beneath them. She moves with a terrifying confidence. Suchan's eyes widen in shock as he instinctively tries to react. But Yanyun isn't done playing. Her expression twists into a menacing grin, her single glowing eye locking onto him. With a sudden, overwhelming force, she slams her hands together. From the ground, the leader and the woman watch in shock, eyes wide with fear. They cry out Suchan's name. Above, Yanyun's massive hands come crashing together with terrifying force, aiming to crush Suchan completely. Yanyun grins, her red eyes glowing with exhilaration. Energy crackles through her body as she applies more pressure, determined to finish him off. But just as the dust settles, Yanyun's body is flung back, crashing through the air. Yanyun steadies herself, looking around in confusion. Despite the overwhelming force of her attack, Suchan is nowhere to be seen. On the ground, the woman questions whether Suchan managed to dodge in time, while the other frantically wonders where he disappeared to. Suchan's face remains hidden, but his presence confirms he's still in the fight. Then, a voice echoes beside him. She calmly advises him against a direct confrontation, suggesting that brute force alone won't be enough to deal with Yanyun. Yanyun looks around, frustrated, realizing Suchan has vanished. She mutters to herself, questioning where he could be hiding. But before she can finish her thought, a strange force distorts her vision. For a brief moment, she sees double her own reflection flickering in front of her. Meanwhile, the woman beside Suchan notices something strange. A sudden crackling of energy fills the air, drawing her attention. Then, her eyes widen in shock. Sparks of energy flicker violently as she urgently calls out to Suchan, warning him that something unnatural is happening. Suchan's eyes widen in alarm. Something is very wrong. Without hesitation, he activates Space Jump, his body vanishing in a blur of energy. Yanyun's overwhelming power distorts reality itself. On the ground, the two onlookers shield themselves from the shockwave. They stare in horror at the destruction unfolding before them. Suchan's expression turns grim. He realizes that Yanyun's body is reaching its limit. If this continues, she won't be able to hold on any longer. Suddenly, Yanyun lets out a deafening scream as golden energy erupts from within her. Then, she floats within a cold, watery void, her body curled up as if trapped in an endless sleep. As she drifts, thoughts echo in her mind. Every time she opens her eyes, all she sees is darkness. She has lost count of how many times she has awakened, only to be met with despair. A cold, sterile light flickers overhead. The girl remembers the countless times she's laid on the operating table, helpless under its glow. Needles pierce her skin again and again, her body nothing more than a test subject in a world that has long lost its humanity. In this apocalyptic wasteland, she was nothing but a lab rat for cruel experiments. Trapped in her containment pod, she silently pleads to any higher power that might be listening. If a god exists, she begs for help, willing to give anything in return for her freedom. But just as her consciousness fades, a voice calls out Yanyun. Yanyun's eyes snap open, disoriented. Meanwhile, Yanyun's towering radiates divine energy, her form flickering as if unstable. A cryptic message lingers, something she must not forget. Suchan remains unfazed as he dismisses weakness. Without hesitation, he extends his hand. Suchan's energy surges as he charges forward, his eyes glowing with intensity. He shouts, commanding Yanyun to wake up immediately. With a powerful strike, he slams his attack into Yanyun's body, sending a shockwave rippling through her. Yanyun staggers back, pain flashing across her face as her unstable energy spirals out of control. On the ground, a woman watches in shock, struggling to comprehend Suchan's overwhelming power. Yanyun's body trembles as glowing energy surges through her. Her mind clears, and a buried memory resurfaces. She remembers. Flashes of the past flood in. A familiar voice, teasing yet caring. A man who once warned her to stay safe. She recalls the hunger, the despair, the endless suffering. Each time she reached her limit, the same figure would always appear. Even in the darkest moments, he was always there. Memories flood Yanyun's mind, a surge of emotions overwhelming her. Because of him, she survived. She recalls the warmth, the safety, the fleeting moments of peace in a world filled with despair. He was always there, a guiding light that pulled her from the darkness. Now, that light shines within her, igniting an unstoppable resolve. Energy erupts from her body, her form glowing as she makes a choice for him. She is willing to give everything. Suchan's expression darkens as he realizes what's happening. Yanyun's energy is reaching a critical point. From the sidelines, the onlookers panic. They quickly realize the truth: she's about to self-destruct. A blinding light engulfs Yanyun as her energy spirals out of control, the force so intense that even those watching are forced to shield themselves. The ground trembles as the explosion begins, debris lifting into the air. The golden light fades, leaving behind a devastated battlefield. The once towering buildings now barely stand, reduced to rubble. A man slowly opens his eyes, scanning the destruction. The tension lingers. Is it finally over? Uncertainty fills the air as another survivor questions Suchan and Yanyun's fate. Their presence is nowhere to be seen. Then, realization dawns on them. Have they disappeared?
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.